All right, welcome back to the BMX Commentator Podcast. I'm your host, Rich Eames, BMX World Championships and World Cup commentator. Back for episode 20. I can't believe we've got to episode 20. And our guest for this episode is an up-and-coming rider from Australia. My first recollection of this rider is bursting onto the scene at the Santiago del Estero World Cup in 2023. All smiles on the gate. And she's certainly made an impact since then. So welcome to the podcast, Bella May. Bella, how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm very well. Thank you very much. It's lovely to have you on the podcast. So, you go on, carry on. Sorry, I interrupted.
I'm so excited to be on it. Sorry.
Brilliant. Well, do you know what? I've discovered actually from doing the podcast that when you get the Australians on, they're always chirpy and chatty. You always get great conversation. So I'm like, yeah, I know this is going to be a good one already. So yeah, I'm excited for it. So you were saying just before we started that you'd been at work all day. So tell us what work looks like for Bella May. What do you do for a living?
So I currently have about 3 jobs going for me. One of them is coaching just at my local club, and then another one that's about 40 minutes from home. Another one of my jobs is I'm a receptionist at like the local gym that I go and train at. And then the other job is I drive around delivering car parts for like an auto company.
Wow, you are busy. I'm surprised you've got time to fit any training or riding in with a schedule like that. But
Yeah.
Whatever makes it happen, whatever, gets you to where you need to be, that's absolutely awesome. So,
Yeah.
but yeah, now I've got you on the podcast, I kind of want to go back to the beginning a little bit because you're relatively new to the World Cup scene. Obviously, as I said in the intro, that you didn't really come into my consciousness until Santiago del Estero in 2023. But I needed to know a bit more about you, where you came from, how you got started in the sport. So give us a bit of background on how BMX came to be for you.
So it all started when we moved house towards like pretty much around the corner from a track. And it was just a random day. I think it was on a weekend. And when we drove past, there was actually this big event on, and I was like, oh, this is cool. Like, can we go and have a look? We went through the gates and stood on like the last straight, and it was chaos, just screaming, people just everywhere. And I looked at Mum and I was like, this is my sport. I want to do this. This is sick. How do I sign up? Where do I go from there? It was my sport. I could just tell for that one moment.
It's amazing, isn't it, how those things happen? Because my kind of introduction to the sport was very similar to yours in that I lived very close to a track. In fact, I've lived very close to a track all my life. Every time I've moved house, I've moved closer to our local BMX track. It's insane. But
yeah,
I like the fact that you said, I knew straight away. So,
yeah,
because I was expecting you to say, oh, my brother was involved and I just followed my brother. And
well, my brother he was actually injured at the time. I think he had a broken elbow. So he kind of followed me.
Really? So it was the opposite way around?
Yeah, a little bit. But I know that he would have picked it up straight away as well. He would be like, this is awesome. I'm ready.
Yeah.
Let's go.
Yeah. So what was the track then? What's the local track for you?
Frankston BMX Club. So it's about, I reckon, 2 Ks down the road. I'm currently at a different club now, which is where I do all my coaching at. So that's around about half an hour from here. But I love that. I love the community there and the club. They're just great.
Okay, so you're relatively close to the track, which is always handy. So you're quite lucky in that respect. That's brilliant. So how did that first race go then? How did your BMX career start? Tell me about the first race.
Jesus, first race. Oh God, that's a good question. I think it would have been like a Friday night clubby. I can't even remember my first race, but I'm gonna go with it was a Friday night clubby. Just I probably would have been, I think I was 8 years old at the time. Just jumped in with the boys. I pretty much raced with the boys, I guess, my whole career. There wasn't many girls, especially where I'm from. There's around about 5 of us, if that. So I've always been racing with the boys. So my first clubby, I probably would have been in with my brother, and hopefully I think I would have made an A final at the clubby. But from there, I was on a 4-month license at the time, so it was like a trial run. And then I got into like the club coaching and all that stuff with just our local coaches down at the club. And I ended up going to my first Australian titles on a 4-month license, which you legally aren't allowed to do. So I had to get an exemption for that. That's like the first race that I really can remember that was like really good. I just remember my coach being like, you got to get top 4 just to make it through. And me, I was like, yep, sweet, I'll sit in 4th. I didn't like try to make better than 4th. I just had in my head, yep, 4th. Let's just come 4th every race.
Yeah.
Which then I ended up finishing 8th in Australia for my first Aussie titles. So that was pretty surreal, and I guess it just picked up from there.
Wow. So 4 months in, just started racing, first Aussie titles, comes out. You were a main maker from minute 1. It was like, yeah. And it's just become more and more intense since then. So how did so you started at 8. So, and you had that first trip to the Aussie titles, and you make a main. Did you kind of this is going to sound terrible. Did you kind of take it seriously straight away, or were you still kind of on the just keeping it chill and riding for fun for a couple of years, or did you just get bang into it?
Definitely straight into it. Like intense training schedule. I reckon after that Aussie titles, it just made me more determined, and then I ended up being on like a training plan and all that. It sounds so like intense because like we'd come home from school and straight to training, straight to the track, or like go for a ride or a run, something like that. I never went from school to a friend's house or something like that. It was like, come home, let's do training. We've got sprints, we've got rollers, all that stuff. So from get-go, it's really been on this strict training schedule that I guess I love it and I've stuck to it.
Yeah. I think some people do thrive in that environment. It's, if you've got that level of not intensity, but you've got that level of desire from the beginning, and you can channel it. It does work for some people. It doesn't work for others. But if it works for you, then so much the better. So you're on this path to be a racer, and you're obviously loving it. So who was your competition growing up then? Who did you battle with at the Aussie titles as a youngster?
So I'll just throw Sienna in there because she's my age. So we've always been battling in the Aussie finals. So she's the only one that's really still around and at like World Cup level at Worlds and all that stuff. So Sienna Pal has been like my competition from the first Aussie titles, really. But because we're all in different states in Australia, so we don't get to see each other that often and get to race as much as we would like to, just because of how far apart we are and all that stuff. But yeah, Sienna, she's been my competition from day one.
Yeah, Sienna Pal, we've seen her at the World Cups. Just it seems like the Australian girls, you're like GB in that you've got that nice little nucleus of talent, and you've got riders who come through and who battle from an early age, and they seem to do really well really early on. Did you think that when you got to the World Cup scenario that you would like do as well as you did at the get-go? Was it that desire always there?
I did not expect the result that I came away with at Argentina. So I was just in there. I was like, I think I had the goal of, all right, let's make a semi. Like that's what I'm going for. Like that was my first real international race. Like I did do would it have been 2022? What was that? France Worlds. That was my first time. Yeah, so that was my first time overseas and racing girls from other countries. But I definitely think that Argentina was like the start of my overseas career, really.
Right, because I was doing commentary on that race, and I remember, in fact, I've been back and watched it. I watched the semi-final, and you're on the gate, you're on the outside, gate 7 or 8, whatever it was, and you were just beaming. You looked so stoked to be there. And when you get to that stage, you're used to seeing, from a commentator's perspective, like riders lining up on the gate, and they look quite nervous. Some of them look really pensive, and then you got to the end of the line, and you're like, "Well, hey, buzzing!" You just looked so excited, and I'm like,
Yeah.
I already like this girl. She's gonna do really well just because of the fact that she's not letting the pressure get to her.
Yeah, I think. That's my favorite race so far ever. Like, just even Argentina, that was just so sick, that place. And my favorite track to date. So I'm so keen to get there next year again. But yeah, that was just, I think I had in my head that if I think about anything, like, it's all going to go wrong. So let's not think about anything. Let's just have a little bit of caffeine. And let's just be peeing, because everything's on video. So I was like, at least if I go watch all this back, I can be like, yeah, I had the best time ever.
Yeah, and it's a culture shock, isn't it, when you get over to that part of Argentina as well? I remember going for the first time myself, and I'm like, whoa, this is nothing like the UK.
Yeah,
And there's stray dogs running around when you get off the plane at the airport and stuff like that, and horse and carts going down the street, and it's rural Argentina, and then suddenly this BMX track appears out of nowhere, and you're just like,
just the
oh my
middle of
word, here
nowhere,
we go. Yeah.
literally.
So how did your motivation change then when you got back from Argentina? You had that first overseas race, and you come back, you're buzzing, you're absolutely fired up for it. Did that take your motivation to the next level? How did that change things for you?
Definitely. I think it was a good eye opener, and it kind of showed me where I was at and what I got to do to get the next level. So I think, as always, you like do your race, you reflect on it, you come back home, and then you dig deeper and you go harder in your training and stuff like that. So I was just excited to then wait for the year to finish to then go again for 2024 World Cup season.
Yeah, right, okay. Because I'm gonna just step back a little bit as well in terms of like the timeline, because you got some assistance from Caroline Buchanan on the Ignite scholarship. Is that correct?
Yeah.
You did. So how was that then? I'm curious to know, because obviously I've heard Caroline talk about it on various podcasts, but I'm kind of keen to find out from an athlete's perspective what you got from the Ignite scholarship, what it entails, what support you get, and what the benefits were of working with Caroline.
God, where do I start? So I got partnered with a company, and they gave an X amount of funding, and I got to put that wherever I would like to, whether that was training or travel, which I chose mine to be travel to get to the first 4 rounds of the World Cups. So that's where my payments went. And then anytime that I needed Caroline, or I could just text her, call her, and she'd always be down to chat and to help me in whatever area so I needed. It was definitely the best thing. I hands down loved it. And hopefully I get to keep that relationship and keep talking to her and getting her to help, because she's so important in our sport and in women in like sport and in general. So yeah.
Yeah, so you've got Caroline on speed dial then, basically.
Pretty much.
Pretty much. That's all right. That's not a bad thing to have at all, because from the podcast that I've listened to, I was listening to her on the Gypsy Tales podcast with Jace McAlpine, the one where they go for about 3 hours. And she went so deep into the marketing side of it and how she markets herself as an athlete. I'm thinking, this is an absolute goldmine for anybody who listens to this. But, for somebody like yourself and the other girls on the Ignite program, if you've got that level of expertise and you can channel that level of expertise, it should be something that can help not only take your racing to the next level, but also the way you market yourself, the way you present yourself to companies, and it can have proper long-term benefits. So the fact that you've already started to grasp that from Caroline, I think is fantastic. Did that kind of parlay into you getting the sponsorship with Prophecy? I know you've just signed a 4-year deal with them.
Yeah, I would say so, because her, like you said, with the marketing of yourself and things like that, I think it definitely helped you with growing my Instagram and all that stuff, which then got me out into the world a little bit more for Prophecy to notice. But that also comes from Twisted Co Australia. So I've had Ben Simmons that's really been pushing that for me since the first time I jumped on the Prophecy. So a big shout out to him for helping me get that as well. Yeah,
I met Ben at Worlds. I met him at Rock Hill. He's an absolutely top lad. So I'm glad you're involved in and riding a Prophecy. How long have you been riding a Prophecy for now?
Let's say about 1.5 years.
Okay.
I'm not sure down to the day or the month or that stuff. But yeah, I made a change probably mid-year last year.
Yeah. Okay. And what's the best thing about the bike then? What do you like about it the most?
Literally everything.
Yeah.
I think from what I went off to jumping on that, it just felt like, say you're on a Kmart bike. I don't know if you guys know what Kmart is.
Yeah.
Jumping on a Kmart bike to then like getting in a Lamborghini. That was what it felt like. Just
wow.
Everything just, I felt like I could get all my power down, and I would think I was at a point where I wasn't really sure with BMX, so I made that change, and then all of a sudden everything fell into place. So I have not looked back, and I just love it.
Okay, well, that's good to know that you're happy with the bike anyway. So it's if you've got confidence in your equipment, that's a big part of the game. So it's nice to hear. So let's dive into the 2024 season then. What were your expectations? What did you have in mind for the 2024 season? Did you have specific goals? Was it a case of, I don't know, let's just see how we go, let's give it a bash and get that first season out of the way? When you were kind of going into Rotorua, what was your mindset?
I would say I had the goal of to try be in every main for the 6 rounds. That was like my goal. Then when we rocked up to Rotorua and it was 1 moto, and then you had to get top 2, and then LCQ, and then like just the main. So that was a little bit strange and odd that there wasn't that many girls to ride with. But I think my mindset coming into that was really good. And I just come off a big training block, so I was ready to kind of show the scene what I had. But I would say pretty successful race meet. My first day wasn't so great. Leading into the main, it was all good. I think I was top qualifier for that day. And then I kind of stuffed my gate a little bit. But then I got a good backside, and I pulled up a side Ava, and I got the chop. But that's racing. It is what it is. I've just learnt from that sometimes you don't have to win everything. You can pull back and get another result.
Yeah. So you were kind of already learning from that first World Cup round, because, like you say, you got squeezed going into turn 1, and the big turns as well at Rotorua. So there's plenty of space to move as you go around the track. But I think pulling off a podium, I think it was, wasn't it, for your first kind of round of 2024 was a great result. And then we moved into round number 2, and you were quite close to Ava Corley again.
Yeah, we had a really good battle that weekend. I think it just come down to a little bit of track speed that I had on her, which she would lead the whole lap until the last berm. And then I would just somehow, I've always been called Backstraight Bella for some reason. I I can never lead a lap. I just leave it till the last corner, do a little bit of a swoop, and then go down the last straight.
Well, there's nothing wrong with that. You've only got to be in front for the last 3 inches of the race, haven't you? You've only got to get to that stripe first. So
that's
yeah,
why
let
we have a
somebody else
finish
dig
line.
it out. Yeah, and get it stolen right at the end. So yeah, brilliant. Did you find the girls quite welcoming as you came onto the World Cup scene? I'm interested to know, what the vibe's like. I'm sure you're all kind of like hugs and high fives after the race. How is it at that level? Is there a little bit of, not needle, but a little bit of tension there, or is everybody still quite chill and getting along?
I think there's always going to be tension, but I think I always had the vibe of like just be bubbly, friendly, like bring back that Argentina vibe in the pits, talking to everybody. Some people like to stick to themselves, which you kind of are aware of that, and not to distract them or to go over and say g'day, you know what I mean? But I think over the finish line, like I've always fist pump, high five, hug. Like you'll see me and Taya Rufus, we always do that. So I didn't find anything that wasn't great. Like I just loved it. I just wanted to make the most of it.
Yeah, so everybody's fairly relaxed, which is not a bad thing actually. So, if you can get along with the competition, so much the better. Even though you've got to, battle on the track. So
Yeah,
moving on. Sorry, go on, carry on.
Sorry, I like
No,
the
it's all
idea
right.
of like your friends off the track, but enemies on the track.
Yeah.
So whatever happens, I liked to carry that through when I spent some time with the girls in the Brizzy World Cup. I was like, because we're all staying together, I was like, whatever happens on the track, it stays there. And then when we come back to the hotel, we're all besties. Like that's the vibe that we need.
Yeah, absolutely. Could not agree more. So moving from Rotorua then on to Brisbane, round 3, because that inside line definitely worked for you because you ended up with a second. How was round 3 at Brisbane?
Round 3, I think same kind of deal. Me and Taya were like one every moto, one every semi, that kind of thing, and it would just come down to the last race. Round 3 it was wet, so Sleeman was already slippery enough in the dry, let alone when it's been bucketing down. I got a little bit of a crappier gate. I was kind of lucky that I didn't eat it on the first jump because I had to push through a couple of girls. And then I guess I just tried to sit behind and try to catch her, but I think I just ran out of track in the end of that. But
yeah,
I can't complain with the second. Like that's still awesome.
Yeah, I think in a situation like that, like you said, when the track's wet and it's slippery, and there's the potential for things to go wrong, sometimes it's better to be almost safe than sorry and just take that second spot, even though I have no doubt in my mind that you wanted the win. But to take a second, walk away in one piece, and then come back and have another go in round number 4 is probably not a bad idea. And then moving on to round 4, you were much closer to Taya in that final. Did you bobble on the final straight?
Yes. I'll never let this race go. I'm so mad at myself.
Right.
I think I had more determination and I was ready for round 4. Like, I guess round 3 kind of pissed me off a little bit that I made that mistake. So I was ready to go. And I think that might have been the day that my semi-final, I should have ate it, but I didn't.
Right.
Where I got like cut by Tegan over the second jump. So I still ended up with a win in my semi, which put me second qualifier. And to be completely honest, I had the best gate of my life. Like gates are not my strong point at all. And to do a gate and come out side by side with Taya, I was like, whoa, okay. Got down the first straight pretty smooth, jumped into the corner, but I was on the outside of her, so she kind of pushed me up a little bit. And then I was a little bit scared because Emily came under me And I was like, oh God, she's going to chop me. But Em played nice and she let me go through. And then it was just really hunting it. It was like fox and lamb. I just tried to stay as close as I could. And then like yet again with that back straight Bella thing, I just, in the corner, I swooped down a little bit. I ended up pulling up beside her, got in front, and then over the tabletop, because I was always doing like the most simplest line down that straight because I never had an issue with it, where everyone else was like jumping onto table and manualing on, manualing off. I was just pump manual, nose manual, manual. So I did my nose manual and bloody missed the backside. One time, like not even through training that I missed the backside once. It was like, yep, you can do it today. You can just stuff that up. So that then made Taya come back beside me. I manualed, then I pumped, I think. I shot a little sideways. And then looking at the photo finish, I lunged way before the line. I didn't pedal or anything. I just lunged and Taya got a crank in and got that little 15th better. But hey, still second. Can't complain.
Yeah. So that's the one that got away, is it? Round number 4 at Brisbane. Wow.
Yeah. Never let that race go.
Yeah. Well, it's it's all a learning process. You might as well do it there than in a World Championship final, I suppose.
Exactly.
So yeah. And then we move on to round 5, Tulsa, where
God.
I think you spent more time lying on the floor than riding around. You ended up on the floor twice in 2 races. So yeah, I think you just slid out, didn't you, in round 5? You just had that, it just got away from you in turn 1.
Yeah, I don't think I did too much wrong there. It was just I must have been a little bit too far over the front and just lost it. So that day was a write-off. We'll just handball that one off to someone else. And then round 6, I was yet again pissed off that I stopped the first round. So I was like, yeah, this is it. You know what? We're gonna get a win in the final one. Yet again, best gate of my life. For some reason, the second day is always better. So I got good gate. Ended up, because I was inside of Taya. I think she was prepared for me to come under. Like I guess she was kind of expecting that. And then I went in under, and my handlebar got caught in her jersey, and I couldn't turn. So I think I more felt really bad that it looked like I just took Taya out and I didn't turn, but I just got hooked up in her jersey, and then I guess that was the end of it for both of us for the day.
Yeah. Went up the turn, fell over and took Taya with you, and ended up in the the inflatable fencing at the top of the jump. But yeah, I just like the fact that you and Taya hugged it out as well at the end of it, and continued your way around.
I think definitely at the moment there was a little bit of heat about it, but that's racing. But now I think that we can just watch the video and have a giggle and be like, Jesus, what the hell are we doing?
And the fact that you came in 7th and 8th, and I looked at the time difference between you as you crossed the line, and there was literally 1/1000th of a second between you as you came across the line in 7th and 8th.
Because we got up, and I looked at her, I was like, I'm so sorry. We had a little hug, and then we jumped on our bikes, and we're like, all right, I'll race you. So then we was side by side, and then last corner, we just both yelled out, go, and we just sprinted to the line. So
okay.
Yet again, a second. But it's okay.
Okay. So kind of sum up that first full World Cup season for me in terms of what you learned, what you felt went well, what you felt you could do better, and how that's changed your approach to 2025.
So definitely what went well is that I got some pretty awesome results. Like, I can't complain with any of them. I got a second overall, so I was wrapped with that. That was, I think, after the first few rounds, I set my expectations and my goals a little bit higher. And then more looking at like point totals and stuff with Dad, that I was like, oh yeah, let's make this goal be top 3 overall. Like that then became the aim. I definitely learned that the races to the finish line at a World Cup, and sometimes to take it easier rather than just go out and give it all. Like if you need to, if you need to, like, for instance, in that first race with Ava, I should have slowed down a little bit, let her go, and just slide in for like a third or so, and then try hunt it down for the rest of the race. But yeah, that was pretty awesome, like, season for me. So I can't complain with anything.
Yeah. So, with all that in mind, then, is the goal for 2025 to be World Cup overall champion?
Not
that I'm putting you on the spot or anything. Do you know what I mean?
Well, that would be awesome, but I think, I'm going to be stepping up into the elite category. So
right, okay.
Yeah, I think let's let it out on this interview. I haven't told anybody yet. So I think that expectation's a little bit too high for me to go, yeah, let's be World Cup overall. So I think I'm just going to go deep end and give it a crack and not really think about anything. I think my goal will be to make it to Worlds. So, but okay. I want to attend all the World Cups. That's definitely the goal. Maybe semi-final every round. But yeah.
Cool. Fantastic. The only reason I said World Cup overall champion, because I automatically assumed that you were going to stay under 23 for another season. So
yeah, I think
that was where that came from. So
yeah.
The fact go on, carry on.
Yeah, I've thought about both options for quite a while, and I'm like, you know what, stuff it. What have I got to lose? All to gain, nothing to lose. Let's just do it.
Yeah, in for a penny, in for a pound. Brilliant. Absolutely love it. It's the fact that you're getting stuck in, like, because a lot of people would have gone, do you know what, I'll do another season in under 23 and then we'll get into the Olympic qualifying cycle and probably go elite from there. But I think learning those lessons in the elite category early on with zero pressure, so to speak, because there's no World Cup, there's no Olympic qualifying on the line for the 2025 and 26 seasons. So you can take those as learning processes, and then when the Olympic qualification starts, then you've got 2 years of experience there to just then really start to lay it on thick, so to speak. So although it seems almost a little bit unusual, from another point of view, it's actually it makes a lot of sense to do what you're doing. So I'm excited to see how that's going to pan out then.
Yeah, those thoughts definitely were through my mind. I think I had to write out a cons and pros list of which option to go. But I'm excited and I'm ready for this next season. I just wanted to start already. This year's really dragging out. Everything's like done. So now it's just like, I guess, grind season. You just head down, do what you have to do, and then hopefully we come into the next season ready to go.
Yeah. So looking at the World Cup list then for next year, it's Sarrians and Papendal back-to-back, and then a trip to Argentina, which obviously you're going to love. Are you excited to come to Europe?
Yeah. I haven't experienced much over there. I've only really done the world titles that were in France. So I never really know which way to go. I've spoken to a couple of people whether to hit up America or go Europe, but like definitely majority of the girls are in Europe, so that would be good racing with them. And I guess just the track differences, there's a lot going on. I really want to end up coming out to Manchester and training with Beth and Emily. That's a dream for next year. That's what I really want to do. So that would be awesome.
Right, fantastic. I think you'd love Manchester. I think you'd really enjoy it. I think you'd enjoy the city as a whole. I think going to to the World Cups as well in Sarrians and Papendal. Papendal in particular, I think, is a track that would suit you because it's just wide open and you can just lay it down and make moves in the turns and stuff like that. So I certainly see Papendal being a track that would probably suit your style of riding. So it'd be exciting to see what you could pull out of the bag in those World Cups, and then you finish it off by going back to where it all started and having a good time. So yeah, I think it's set up absolutely perfectly for you. So just moving on a little bit from there, the Worlds in Rock Hill, how was that for you? What was your experience like in Rock Hill?
Well, that America trip was pretty sick.
Oh yeah, because you went to Florida as well, didn't you?
Yeah, so we had about a 4-week holiday. I wouldn't really call it a holiday though. We went to Tulsa, then ended up flying over to Florida. We stayed there for I think a week and a bit, just training, riding Oldsmobile and Sarasota, and then kind of just relaxing and preparing for the big show. Weather and stuff in Rock Hill was kind of not what we all would have hoped for, but I loved that track. I think Rock Hill and Argentina are definitely my two favorite tracks so far. So I think the track suited me a little bit. I was a little bit iffy in the corners because of what had happened at Tulsa. So I wasn't really excited or relying on my corners. But the track was awesome, especially that third straight. It was just so smooth, so clean. But I think a good event, not the result I was hoping for, but I'm satisfied with it, if that's the way to put it.
Yeah, yeah.
Like I'm so happy to come home with the third, but I think my expectation was a little bit higher. And I think a lot of people's expectations were a bit higher for me. So but I'm happy to come home with a medal regardless. That's my first ever world plate, so I can't complain.
Okay. Because if you look back on the season as a whole, multiple World Cup mains, second overall in the World Cup series, a World Championship podium. Do you feel pressure from outside? Do you feel pressure from other people, as in expectation and that kind of stuff? Or are you still on the Bella's doing her own thing and whatever happens, happens? Is that vibe still going on?
More so now that vibe's come back. I think after the first 2 rounds, I guess the expectations from other people and just hearing them being like expecting a lot of me because of how the first few rounds went. And then I got that crappier weekend in Tulsa. So that didn't help my confidence that much going into the event. But definitely when I was on the gate in the main, I was just like, yep, whatever happens, happens. Let's go. Let's just go for it. But yeah, not the cleanest lap or the lap that I would have loved or expected, but shit happens, eh?
It certainly does. Certainly does. And then just looking at my notes here as well, you've got a national title in under 23 women, and you also won national championships in under 23 and an Oceania championship as well. Is that correct?
Yeah. It's a good way to end my season. Like,
yeah,
WA was a good place. I loved the event. I got to ride with Sienna, so that was awesome. But yeah, it was a good way to top off my year.
Okay, fantastic. Got a few quick fire questions just to kind of wrap these things up, which I'm going to make up off the top of my head because normally I write these things down and for some reason I haven't done this time around. But yeah, quick fire question number 1. Who were you influenced by growing up as a rider?
100% Lauren Reynolds. I don't know what it is about her, but she's just so sick. I've always just looked up to her, just the way that she rides, her style, her personality, and then like getting to actually associate with her and get the chance to train with her and stuff. It just made me like, wow. So Yeah, definitely Lauren. I also looked up to Caroline, so to have her on speed dial is pretty surreal. That's incredible. So yeah, those two girls have definitely been who I've most looked up to in as a child growing up.
Yeah, well, we've got Lauren coming on the podcast in December, so I've already kind of half arranged that one with her. I've asked her, and she said, "Yep, we'll do it in December." So there's another
That's
exclusive
awesome.
Lauren Reynolds coming up on the BMX Commentator Podcast in the next month or so. So yeah, next question. I was going to ask you about the race that got away, but we've already actually covered that one. Which is the race that you really want to win? Is it if you kind of got to the end of your career and went, I'm so glad I got either a rainbow jersey, an Olympic gold medal, whatever it might be, what would be the race that if you won, you could look back on your career and go, do you know what, I was really happy with that?
Yeah, I think if I got a rainbow jersey, that would be. But I think I would say Oceanias and national champs because I ended up getting merged with the elites anyway. So I took out the win there in elite as well, but I got the U23 title. And then just worlds was incredible too. So I didn't really narrow it down for you. I just I think it was just a good season.
Yeah. Okay, that's fair enough. That's fair enough. If you were to be a pro in any other sport, what would it be and why?
I would say probably motocross. I think if we never made the move, I wouldn't be doing BMX. I'd be doing motocross. So I think I always have been drawn to bikes. So some form of riding or racing, something like that. But otherwise, probably AFL because I did have to make the decision whether I went to Worlds in Nantes or if I tried out for Stingrays, which is like then a level before you get like drafted into AFL.
Right.
So
Okay.
I had to make the decision of which way I went. So probably maybe let's go with AFL. I think I'd
Okay.
be doing that.
Yeah. So you were quite talented at that sport then when you were younger?
Yeah, so I never played it as a kid. I just picked it up at like 13, 14-ish and I did fall in love with that sport as well. Something about just getting your aggression out in a different, more, I guess, physical way that you could just tackle and really flatten people just makes me sound so aggressive. But yeah, just I think that was a good sport as well for me to do. And it helped
Yeah.
with my fitness and stuff like that.
Right. Okay. Because obviously AFL's completely like Australia specific, and we don't have anything like that I think anywhere else in the world. So
Yeah.
because I'm a big NRL fan, I'm a big rugby league fan, so I do spend a lot of time watching Australian sport, and I do get influenced by their commentators as well. So yeah, I could fully imagine you being an NFL, NRL, AFL, whatever it is, AFL player.
Somebody.
Yeah, some form of 3-letter acronym. I don't know. I've completely lost my train of thought now, but never mind. Anyway, it would have been good. So last question to wrap it up then would be, it's just gone out of my head. I had something in my mind and I was going to ask you what it was. Right, okay, that's it. What
All right,
advice?
I got one for you.
Go on, fire away.
What has been your favorite race to commentate?
Favorite race to commentate on? Let's have a think.
It can be old. It doesn't
Yeah.
have to be recent.
Yeah. Well, bizarrely enough, I've got two answers. One that everybody will know, I suppose, and then one that people won't know. The one that immediately springs to mind that everyone will know will be World Championships in Papendal, with Nick and Beth taking the win. Especially Beth, because with her being a GB rider, it's always nice to commentate on people from your home country.
Yeah.
So that's good. And then doing the Olympics in the stadium at London was an absolute treat as well, being able to say, you know, Mariana Pajon is your Olympic champion and Mary Strombergs is your Olympic champion. And then the one that nobody will know is I did an indoor race in Manchester with a 2-rider runoff in about 2014. 2 riders, Scott Hamilton and Jack Clark, neither of them are racing anymore, but they went elbow to elbow the entire lap. I went absolutely bananas on the microphone, and yeah, there was nothing in it when they got to the line. They were literally elbow to elbow. There was lead changes, and I got fully into that one lap. And just because it still exists, it's on YouTube. It's the one that sticks out in my mind. So yeah, a runoff at a winter autumn race in Manchester. But anyway,
we need more racing like that. Elbow to elbow.
Yeah,
I feel like everyone's we spread out a little bit more. We kind of give each other a little bit of lenience on the track of, you know, where people are instead of just elbows out. Let's go.
Yeah, a bit more contact. So, right. Last question then is going to be, if you had to give an advice to young girls coming up in BMX racing, because I know there's quite a few of them that listen to this with dad and mum on the way up to the races, advice for young girls who want to progress in their BMX career?
Definitely working on your skill work, like your skills. So your jumps and your manuals, because when you get to, for us, it's like age 16 that you start to go down the 8 meter. It's definitely a skill and an asset that you need to be able to do. So working on that at gate nights or in the driveway, all that stuff, getting out little jumps, little kickers, jumping off the gutters, anything that's going to progress that, and starting that if you can as young as possible. So like I was always told by this one girl in Victoria, she was always like, you need to be able to jump, you need to be able to manual if you want to make it far. If you want to get somewhere with this, that's something that you need to do, because realistically, some tracks you can, but you can't pump an 8 meter start hill. It's not going to end very well for you. So
yeah,
I think having that in your back of your mind to just keep progressing with your skill work, at least for me, that's what I think.
Okay, so the message is build the skills ahead of time, and then when you get to that point where you're heading down the 8 meter, it should be just that a lot more easier.
Yeah, just a bit of muscle memory.
Okay, no, that's fantastic. That's a great way to wrap it up. So, episode 20 of the BMX Commentator Podcast. We've had Bella May on. It's been an absolute pleasure, Bella. Thank you. I am so excited to see what you're going to do in Elite in 2025. You've dropped your exclusive right here. So, yeah, thank you for being a part of it. And I just look forward to seeing what's next.
Thanks so much for having me.
That's all right. Thank you very much.